Good morning, everybody. My name is Julian Chen. I am the head of city partnerships at EIT Urban Mobility, and I'll be hosting the Meet the Cities webinar today. It's a really pleasure to be here with you, even though I can't see you. But really, thanks a lot for taking the time to join us. Emma, if I could ask you to go to the next slide. Okay. So just to position this webinar in the broader context, this is one of several matchmaking sessions that EIT Urban Mobility is organizing this week for our innovation call, which was launched earlier this month. There was also a call information session on Monday, and all of these sessions are being recorded and are available on the B2Match platform. You might also be interested in the other sessions that are still scheduled. So there's one this afternoon focused on the application process, and then 2 sessions tomorrow on commercialization and intellectual property. So you can also register for those if you're interested, also through B2Match. Next slide, please. So just in terms of the agenda, so of course, we're happy to have you here. I'll do a little bit of a welcome and introduction. Then we'll have presentations from 4 cities. Afterwards, we'll have a short Q&A panel. So if you have any questions, I would very much encourage you. There's a chat function. Please put all of your questions in the chat. We'll compile them and ask them at the end of the different presentations. Then my colleague Emma is going to give a little bit of introduction on how to use B2Match for further and continued matchmaking if you're interested, and then we'll do a closing. So I think we have a very nice program ahead of you. And again, we're very much hoping that you'll be actively engaged, and we're looking forward to your questions. Just before we get started, actually, maybe if you could just go back really quickly, Emma, I have a couple of things I wanted to say before we go into the innovation call, because I thought it would be nice to actually take a little bit of a time to give a short introduction and also set the context for why we've organized a specific session on Meet the Cities. And those who know me have likely heard me say this before, so I apologize for the repetition, but I do think it bears repeating, which is that mobility takes place in public spaces, in our cities, in our roads, even in our airspace. And thus a truly successful implementation of a new mobility solution or innovation really needs to go hand in hand with the public authorities that govern these spaces. And in most cases, right, mobility is a public service, but even when it's private, there's still usually an expectation that the city is going to provide some complementary services or infrastructure like EV charging points, et cetera. And in all of these cases, cities have the mandate to improve the lives of their constituents, considering their health and their well-being, but at the same time, they also have to meet some very ambitious climate goals. They have to balance their budgets. They really have to puzzle together very many complex moving pieces to create a system that works together. And I know it's not easy work. And so for those of you on this call who are working in public authorities, I very much appreciate the work that you do. But that being said, I do think it's a very exciting time that we're in, with a lot of momentum towards the transition to climate neutrality, a lot of potential being opened up with new technologies, new data, new developments. So for instance, with energy or new models of public transportation, but also with changing citizen expectations. And, we see that there's space, that there's desire, and there's really the mandate from the city perspective to drive this momentum further. And we at EIT Urban Mobility really firmly believe that an important part of this equation is the public-private partnerships that bring together startups, SMEs, industry partners who are at the forefront of some of these developments, together with cities and other organizations that are invested in the sustainable mobility transition. And the goal, of course, is that through these partnerships, that these new innovations are tested in real environments, they're adapted and improved, and then prepared to be scaled and replicated after the project is over. So that's a little bit of a lengthy introduction to the 2025 Innovation Call. Next slide, please, Emma. Which is focused on, this year's 3 topics. So there's electrification, logistics, and public transportation. And in line with what I mentioned earlier, this call really is meant to support mobility solutions that are in the final stages of tech demonstration. And we want to use this opportunity to accelerate their market deployment. So as a little bit of a recap from Monday's introductory session, what we're looking for are pan-European multidisciplinary consortium that consist of at least one commercial partner who's developing the solution, and then also two pilot hosts where the solution is going to be demonstrated. And again, that's why we're hosting this session this morning, is to introduce several potential pilot hosts and also the priorities and interests. Next slide, please. So for those who might be new to this model, I've included here from our experience over the past few years, some of the roles that cities and public authorities often play in these projects. And of course, the most important in my perspective is in identifying these key challenges and priorities, which helps to support impactful solutions and also ensure a broader product market fit, but also to provide critical inputs and insights for the right use case in the city and the local context, but then also thinking about how to facilitate the solution to be scalable to other contexts, other cities, other environments. Of course, a critical role is also thinking about how to support with stakeholder engagement. So for instance, across different city departments to gain buy-in and support. Providing access to data, infrastructure, other resources to support the pilot testing. And then the final point is that we also at EIT Urban Mobility provide several opportunities for knowledge exchange for cities to share lessons learned and best practices with each other, because we do know it's not easy to be an early adopter. So we try to provide these platforms for sharing and dissemination. Okay, so in terms of the main features, as I mentioned, right, the call opened earlier this month. It's open for 2 months, so please get your applications in by the 4th of June. It's a 2-stage process and about 250 to 500,000 euros per project. And these are shorter project lengths, so up to 12 months. And we expect to have the communication of the results in October 2024. If you have more questions, feel free to direct them to this email address at the bottom of the screen. And as I mentioned, there was a call information session earlier this week, and that recording is available on B2Match. Okay, so I know that you're not here to listen to me, but rather to the cities. So I'm preparing to hand it over. We have 4 presentations today, covering cities from a variety of regions and topographies and size, mobility composition, and even climate. So we hope that you take this chance to keep an eye open for collaboration opportunities, but also really to help understand common city priorities, because there are common city priorities and also needs that you can use to approach other potential city partners. One more reminder, of course, please put your questions in the chat and we'll take them up at the end. I do want to say that unfortunately, Jablonec from the Czech Republic wasn't able to join us due to a last-minute issue. But if you are interested in working with them, they're registered on B2Match, and you can also feel free to contact them there. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mati at Ülemiste, Estonia, for the first presentation. Thank you, Mati.
Thank you, Julian, and thank you for the opportunity to present myself. My name is Mati Fyodorov. I work as a sustainability manager at Ülemiste City. And maybe we differ, if we can have the next slide, please. Thank you. We are different maybe from the other cities that we are located in Estonia, in the capital of Tallinn, and Ülemiste City is one of the largest business districts, and we are privately owned. So we develop an area that is 30 hectares big, and half of it is developed. We very much face the same challenges as every city, especially in mobility topics. And with 500 companies here and 16,000 people working, living, studying, we create a lot of commuting. So we are a bit different and in a favorable position, meaning that on one side we are located right next to the Tallinn airport, and on the other side we have the current railway, but the Rail Baltic terminal is being built, and we are only 5 minutes away from the city center. So mobility is one topic that we've tackled along many years, and naturally, well, we want to improve in this field. So we have 3,000 parking spots to just accommodate the need of the people who work here. And this means that there's a lot of commuting, approximately 1.3 million cars driving through here annually. Although there's a great accessibility with all transportation modes like bicycles as well, public transportation and train. And we've over the years we've measured the means of transportation. So movements other by car are currently at the rate of 50%. So this is something that has been at fairly consistent stage. If we can have the other slide, please. Thank you. So we have different priorities. We have a vision that the inner streets of our campus should be by 2030 car free as much as possible, but during the couple of years we want to decrease the amount of cars passing through here by at least 2 times. So we need also to decrease the congestion by delivery vehicles and use more of those last mile delivery solutions. We have done different pilot projects already with self autonomous vehicles. We have a goal to increase the share of sustainable means of transportation. The city of Tallinn at least has the percentage set at 55% by next year. But we want to move there a bit faster. And as it's very important for our workers or people's satisfaction rate, so we want to improve the satisfaction rate with the accessibility to at least 90%. And the traffic management and the redesigning of the streets is something that we need to improve, as maybe some of the streets are a bit outdated and built, and they face the need of the 90s, but let's say it's not meeting the current criteria. So we are adding already bicycle paths and try to make the streets livable or lively. Next slide, please. So one of the challenges, as again, those are not the only ones, but we've encountered that Estonians are very car favored people. They love to take their travels at short distances, even in cars, and this needs to change. And of course, the infrastructure has to support other means of transportation. I think that a lot of emphasis has gone to the cars, but also people don't know, or they don't put so much emphasis on the sustainable transportation, or they don't know how to make a change or which routes to take if I don't drive a car. What we've seen is also that the partial delivery is increasing, and this means that much likely with every city, the delivery vehicles occupy a lot of space and from pedestrians, and even can create unsafe situations. So we need to increase the safety. And again, as mentioned, last mile delivery solutions are favorable because with every package, we don't need to have a big delivery truck driving through a campus. What I've encountered as well is that the people maybe have a negative assumption about the public transportation. So again, this is connected to awareness that public transportation is the most efficient way of commuting. that saves a lot of emissions and money. Next slide, please. So our opportunities lie here that as we are a privately owned company or campus, we own even every plot and every street. So this means that we are very flexible to change the infrastructure. We are in a very close partnership with the city of Tallinn, with different organizations there, like the transportation agency, etc. We've tackled the issues in a very data-driven way, meaning that we use already technology to gather real-time statistics about the moving objects. We have AI surveillance giving us information how many cars there are parking, which cars, vans are coming in from different intersections, etc. We have speed measurements, noise measurements, air quality measurements, and this data goes back to many years. We have also a data scientist in our team, and we are looking to improve or seek out solutions that can utilize this data to give out better solutions. As mentioned, we have experience in different pilots already. We've done like bike to work challenges, changed the traffic management here in the campus, used self-driving vehicles to move passengers or even parcels. So we are very looking for different collaborations, not only in public transportation or urban logistics, but even electrification fields. And I guess that is it. Thank you. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me, even via LinkedIn. So you can always reach to me.
Hey, thank you very much, Matti. I agree. It's actually a very interesting context, this idea of the campus as an interesting pilot and living lab. And I'd also be very interested in hearing more from you in the future about your pilots with the self-driving and autonomous vehicles. That sounds quite interesting. Okay, so with that, we're going to move from Estonia to the beautiful city of Milano in Italy. Which is, of course, one of our longstanding partner cities within EIT Urban Mobility, but also going to be the host of the Winter Olympics in 2026. I know we're all just finally getting over winter now, but maybe in 2 years we'll be ready again. So I'm going to hand it over to Laura Putignano.
Thank you, Julianne. First of all, I'd like to thank EIT Urban Mobility for having given us the opportunity to talk about our goals, our priorities, and to explain to you what we are working on. My name is Laura Putignano. I work within the mobility department of the municipality of Milan in the innovation systems area. Please, next slide. Milan is the main financial and economic hub of Italy. It is a big city. We have the city area that counts 1,400,000 inhabitants, but we have the metropolitan area that counts more than 3 million inhabitants. Consider that around the city there are 133 smaller municipalities, so it is a very big center. As you can see from these numbers, we have a very high motorization rate. It means that one inhabitant of two has his own private car. We have about every day more than 5 million travels, and the most of them are within the city, but we have also many travels between Milan and the metropolitan area. Next slide, please. You can see in the slide that there is a quite opposite situation between the city and the metropolitan area. Because within the city, the highest percentage of inhabitants uses public means, and only the 30% of people use is a private car. Instead, in the metropolitan area, the percentage is almost the opposite. The most of inhabitants are workers of the city. So it means that they use their own private car to reach the park and ride areas that are located at the end of the tube lines, and then they start using public means within the city. But of course, there is a very high use of cars. So one of our goals, as you can see in the next slide, is to reduce the motorization rate, to foster the use of public transport with the aim of reduce the traffic congestion and also the transport and transit times. It is not an easy path. First of all, because we need to guarantee environment and traffic safety. And we are adopting different measures aimed to foster the increase of zero-emission vehicles. Also trying to working on the development of connected and autonomous mobility, and focusing also on the improvement of the accessibility and of the inclusivity of the city. As Julian said, we will host Winter Olympic Games and Paralympics in 2026. So we are very focused on the accessibility topics to improve crossing intersections, to improve also the routes that connect Olympic sites. Next slide, please. We have different priorities. First of all, we are working on the urban planning to increase the safety of pedestrians and of cyclists. We introduce different kind of strategies. First of all, we increase the number of pedestrian areas in the city. We introduce different area with the speed limit of 30 kilometers. And we are always working on the increase of tactical urbanism experiments all around the city, trying to make the city more livable for people and to create spaces that allow people to spend time together in safety. So the urban planning is very important. It's very important also to solve one of the problem of the city. As you can see in these pictures, there are examples of logistics vehicles parked where they shouldn't be. They are on cycle lanes, they are in a double row. They parked in areas dedicated to pedestrians. So one of the things we're working on is to plan appropriate spaces for loading and unloading operations. Consider that every hour in the city there are about 8,000 vehicles that are engaged in logistics operations. But we have only about 4,000 parks for this kind of operations. So it is clear that many of these vehicles will look for other solutions to park. So we are trying to identify new spaces for this kind of operation in order to optimize service logistic routes and uploading and unloading operations. It is a big challenge because our municipality has been working in the latest years to reduce the car parks, but we must solve this problem. So it will be a big challenge. Another priority of the city is to introduce more sustainable urban transport solutions. We are working on a big project that started in 2022 and will last until 2026. That we realize an experimental laboratory with infrastructure and services to test new technologies, smart mobility proposal in a real world condition. So we are creating a sort of infrastructure that will allow us to test connected and autonomous vehicles, technologies, both for public freight or passengers transport, but also for private transport. We are installing, this project is financed by PNRR, the Resilience Plan for the recovery. And it is we are working on in this area that you can see in these pictures that involves the outer ring of the bus lane 1991. Please, next slide, please, so I can explain. There are 27 intersections involved, 23 traffic light junctions. And in this area that is a protected and mixed lane, we are introducing new infrastructures and technologies that will allow companies, experimenters, to test their products, their solutions, their technologies in real condition under proper infrastructure and services. So this is an area that is covered by 5G network bandwidth. It is a quite long area. It will involve 5 bus stops. It will involve public transport means with specific solutions that will count the number of passengers that are waiting at the bus stops and that are already on the bus. So it will be an infrastructure where companies will be able to test their products and their solutions in very safe conditions, because first of all, before doing the test in the road, we will use another technologies. Next slide, please. That will allow us to make everything in safety, because we are using a simulator that will use static and dynamic data obtained from the sensors that we are installing along the route, and it will reproduce the urban environment through a digital twin system. And in this case, it will help it will assist the testing of autonomous driving logic in a realistic virtual environment. So we are going to we are installing more sensors that will enhance driver performances, and also green light optimal speed advisor that provide drivers with the optimal speed to maintain when approaching an intersection. Next slide, please. So our challenges are to improve urban logistics through more sustainable operations, last miles deliveries. Of course, we don't have at the moment a micro hub within the city, so this is another thing we're working on. And we, of course, the target is to reduce the urban congestion. And about public transport, we invite researchers, innovators, and startups and businesses to test their technologies in our infrastructures. That's all from Milan. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, you can write to these email addresses, and I will be here at the end of the meeting for any questions.
Thank you very much, Laura. That was a really lovely presentation, and I'm very impressed that you're moving 5 million trips every day.
Yes.
What I also really like is that, right, you talk a lot about the technology side, but you also talk about the accessibility and inclusivity, because of course, we know at the end of the day, it's about innovation, but it's also about people. And I think another point that I think is really important, and I see is very common, right, is this challenge of the city to suburban and regional connections. So I'm hoping that we can get some interesting proposals on that topic as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So now we move from Milano to the city of Dublin in Ireland, and this will be presented by Edel. I'll hand it over to you now, Edel.
Hi, thanks, Julian. Yeah, it's great to be here to speak to you today, and thank you to Julian and them for hosting the this EIT Urban Mobility Innovation Call. So I'm going to be speaking about Dublin City, which is the capital city in Ireland, and I work in Dublin City Council, which is one of the 4 local authorities in Dublin. So I work within the Transportation Planning Division, and that sits within the Environment and Transportation Department. And today I will be introducing Dublin City. So next slide, please. So just by way of introduction, this infographic gives a high-level overview of some of Dublin City's statistics. So again, Dublin City is the capital city. We have a population of just over 550,000. But Dublin City is a very youthful city. So the age range of 20 to 24 years is actually the most represented group within the city. So it makes it the 3rd youngest city in Europe, behind Brussels and Paris. But also our population, you can see there, is continuing to rise. And we have a projected increase of 58,000 by 2026. And all of this has to be contained within 115 kilometers squared of geographic area. So our city is also experiencing almost full employment, and we boast a highly educated population with over 50% achieving a 3rd level education. Next slide, please. So our current mobility priorities. So the current sustainability goals of the city are to be climate neutral by 2030. Ireland's National Sustainable Mobility Policy has set out strategic framework for active travel for public transport to support Ireland's climate targets, which is a 51% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by the end of the decade. Again, transport is responsible for 18% of our emissions, I think 94% of which is connected to road traffic. So it's vital for us to encourage and enable people to switch to more sustainable modes of travel. We also have a binding sectoral target around transportation to cut our emissions by 50%, and that's relative to pre-COVID levels and by 2030. This is then supported further by our Climate Action Plan, which introduces a target to reduce our projected total vehicle kilometers by 20% in 2030. So next slide, please. So our key mobility challenges, as I suppose Laura and Matty had mentioned before, the area that we're focusing on is urban logistics. So we know that cities are playing a progressively more important role in tackling climate change. And Dublin City is no different. It aligns with the previous speakers. So urbanisation can contribute to sustainable growth. However, as other cities have experienced, the speed and the scale of this urbanisation can bring challenges, such as meeting the accelerated demands of our citizens. So our city is intensifying. We have more pressure being put on our streets to accommodate the activity that has been generated by existing and new developments. So we have our curbside space, and traditionally this is used for servicing of the city. But again, this is being reduced in favour of transport infrastructure projects. So in Dublin City in particular, we have Bus Connects, Lewis expansion, which is our light rail, and we have underground services, Metrolink and Dart Plus. We also have an active travel department, which are rolling out active travel infrastructure. And then we have public realm improvements, which they're all great. And that's exactly where we need to be going. But again, it's just putting pressure on the curb side. So we have limited capacity to meet the servicing requirements of the city. So again, in recent years, as with many cities, there has been a shift away in the way that we move goods around our cities. And in particular, in Dublin City, we have next day delivery. There's increased demands for servicing vehicles and logistics vehicles on our city streets. And sustainable and efficient logistics is crucial for the vitality of the city. So we have a concentration of population in our city, and that combined with the shift in consumer trends towards e-commerce is putting a burden on our existing and emerging demands from our curbside. And so much so, Dublin was ranked in 2022 recently as the 12th most congested city in the world. So congestion, as we know, generates financial, environmental, and social burdens. So our governance models have to improve efficiencies to minimise the impact of this. So for local authorities, more efficient curbside management can reduce congestion, minimise illegal parking, ease vehicle idling, and it just improve the environment for its citizens. And it is an objective of Dublin City Council's 2022 to 2028 development plan to provide a servicing and logistics strategy for the city in the lifetime of the plan. So there we've noted the tackling congestion caused by the servicing needs of the city, to reduce our transport-related CO2 emissions caused by the logistics sector, manage the wide range of competing demands arising from the functional and servicing needs of the city, and then to balance these competing demands whilst facilitating the development and delivery of our public transport and active mobility infrastructure. Next slide, please. So the collaboration opportunities, as we see it for Dublin City Council, we can serve as the challenge owners. And also we have a unique position with the Smart Cities team, working in collaboration with the Transport Department to facilitate and test solutions. We've done this on numerous occasions with very different pilot projects. But again, so the power of technology, the expertise of the data that we have, and we can also bring together different stakeholders and work with them to make Dublin a more livable and vibrant city. And next slide, please. That's all for me, and I can be contacted through the email information below, or again, you can reach out through LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Ida. That was a really nice presentation. I think you, especially kind of explaining the challenges around urban logistics and the complexity around it, but also the impact it can have on congestion. It was very nice. And I am rooting for you as you get to your 50% reduction in transportation emissions by 2030. I really do hope to stay in touch and see what you work on to get there, because I think a lot of cities are working towards that exact same goal. All right, thank you, Ida.
Great, thank you, Julie.
And now, last but absolutely not least, we're very happy to welcome Reinhold Stadler from the city of Brașov in Romania to present on their challenges and priorities. Over to you, Reinhold.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think my camera is cannot start due to you have to unmute my camera, but otherwise I think everything's well. So like mentioned before, Reinhold Stadler is my name. I'm an urban planner, specialized on sustainable urban mobility, and I'm in this case representing Brașov, but also the Metropolitan Transport Agency, where I'm actually part of. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so a few things about Brașov. Basically, it is a mid-sized city positioned right in the middle of the Carpathian Mountains. So we are surrounded by mountains, wildlife. You can see bears quite often around. So we are also renowned for this. We have like 237,000 inhabitants, according to the census in the city. But if we count the metropolitan area, we are around 400,000 inhabitants. This is the area also served by our agency and which is served by public transport. We are Poiana Brașov is also part of the city, which is our mountain resort. It's a bit higher up in the mountains, and it's the second largest ski resort in Romania. So we attract a large amount of tourists each year. And it is going now not only on the winter, but also during summer for hiking, cultural events, and so on. We are a quite diverse city. We have quite strong ethnic minorities of also Hungarians and Germans, completing the Romanian community. And the city is also a mix of a medieval historical center, but surrounded by a communist fabric and the traditional already sprawling suburbs. In terms of mobility, we have probably the newest bus fleet in Romania. More than 70% of the buses that are running inside of the city are electric or at least hybrid. And we are now building up to have the probably most extensive cycling network in Romania. We are having like more than 80 kilometers of dedicated segregated cycling lanes in the diverse implementation stages. So from technical studies till building. On the right side, you can see the basic stats on our city. So I won't go into detail. The only thing which is probably important, we have a motorization rate of 400 cars per 1,000 inhabitants approximately, which is getting quite problematic. And our model split is also quite bad at the moment. More than 46% of the trips in Brașov are made by cars. So this is something we really want to change. We can go to the next slide. So in this period, we are updating our SUMP. So this is the second SUMP. The first one is still to some extent being implemented. The new SUMP is called Shift or Transition. We can call the first one then Open, but now we are trying to transition stronger and increase the rate in which we are transitioning from car-based trips to sustainable urban mobility, and like mentioned before, to really support cycling, walking, and public transport. We aim to reduce by 2035 the traffic on our main streets by 25%. This aim is there in order to reallocate space. So the second aim in this goal is that 70% of the spaces of the space in the major streets is allocated to sustainable means of transport. So bus, cycling. We aim to have more than 40% made within active mobility by 2035. And we want to reach Vision Zero by 2025 to 2027. This is quite fast because we already have good progress on this one. So we have between 2 or 3 road deaths per year. So we are quite confident we can make it to the zero in the next years. In terms of priorities, obviously, we want to really improve the attractivity of public transport. The fleet is new, so in this regard, we are on a good side, but we really need to work on commercial speed. So we want to reach 80 kilometers to 20 kilometers per hour on main routes, and also better focus on more access to information about the system. Then we obviously, like mentioned before, we are working on developing a safe and secure cycling network, but here we are also looking wider. So not only lanes, but also facilities, from counters to parking spaces and everything that is related. Also education, which is quite important for us. We are working on building one of the first cycling schools. We have the facilities already and now working on also preparing the classes. And we want to focus more on involving citizens in this process, because we feel that we are going in one direction with the SUMP and with the priorities, but we really need to explain more and better what we are doing and what we are planning. Inner city logistics is quite important for us also, because we see a huge demand in this topic, and it generates huge problems in the central area. This is why we also have the Raptor Challenge, which is focusing on inner city logistics in the historical center. And also we are developing the first low emission zone in Romania. This is probably not something not new for other cities in Europe, but for us it's a new approach. And we are now preparing the legal framework for this. And the last thing, which is really important, the whole SUMP is based on a transition for us to high capacity public transport network. We have a public transport network built on trolley buses and buses, but they don't face the demand for transport anymore. So we need to transfer to a high capacity transport network. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, so this is why our main challenges in this regard, if we make go very simple, to one hand, we are looking to have a transition to what we call mobility as a service. Here, okay, at the moment we use Google Maps for routing and have the public transport schedules integrated into Google Maps, but we want to go further. We want to go more deep into behavioral change, and also looking forwards to test DRT, demand responsive transit, either for persons with disabilities or reduced mobility, or for the metropolitan areas, so certain routes. We are also working, like mentioned, on cycling infrastructure and facilities, and the inner city mobility logistics, also linked to micromobility. So we are trying to have this transition to micromobility hubs and create these small centers where we can access mobility service. Other research and focus areas are school mobility, electrification of transport, and alternative fuels. This is linked to the transition to high capacity public transport. We are still having to take a decision on what we choose. We go on extending the trolleybus network, we go on tram, or both. We go on more exotic options like gondolas, because we still have hills around the city, or other options. And electrification in this regard is more or less how we can make these options work, because we have a huge demand on our electricity network. We'll have, you can see in the next slides, we'll have to install 90 new electric charging stations in the next years, and already the grid is overloaded. And last but not least, the integration of nature-based solutions and citizen engagement, but it is less tech approach. Next slide. Okay, so basically what we can offer is obviously being partner in transferring knowledge from other city and innovators. So this means that we can also be involved in testing and implementing innovative solutions. This is why we also have the Raptor call. So we are open to be between those cities that take up innovations and try to implement and test them and see how it works. If needed, we can also support with research and development activities, but the focus should be more on testing and implementing ideas. What we are offering, we are quite open administration, very interested in attracting EU funds, and probably even more into EU funds, the non-traditional EU funds. This is why I also look at EIT and the whole environment. We have quite decent GIS database available, which is being updated, that we are now shifting also to provide a good pool of open data sets. And we are installing at the moment a quite extensive traffic management system with more than 88 intersections connected with real-time traffic data, which will cover more or less most of the city. So we will have quite good data available. And additionally, we also have parking sensors being installed in on-street parking. So we'll also have quite good data on street, real-time data on parking. And like you can see, not the picture behind the text, but it's probably the best city to visit in Romania. And when you will come here, for sure you can experience it. So this is from our side. Okay, now I can start my video. Okay, you can also see me. So
Thank you very
I'm
much.
open for any questions.
That was a very nice presentation. And just so everyone knows, before this call, Reinhold had invited us all to visit the City Hall, where they have a beautiful garden. And I'm hoping, Reinhold, maybe in the future, we can also get an invitation to see the gondola if you decide to implement it.
Yeah, so not the City Hall, it's our office at the Metropolitan Transport Agency. The City Hall has a nice park, but we have a more creative park near
We can
our
do
office.
the full tour, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. So that concludes our presentations. So I think this is a very good moment. If you would like, we have the question and answer at the bottom of the screen. Please put your questions there. And maybe as you're doing that, right, I think that, again, there's a lot of interesting commonalities that we've seen. And I'm happy to invite all of the speakers. Maybe if you want to turn your cameras on again, of course. Right, so we see a lot of, I think, again, I feel very excited because there's a lot of big goals here. There's a lot of things happening. Lots of commonalities in the challenges being faced around urban logistics to mitigate congestion, thinking about how to improve public transportation, its attractiveness, its inclusivity, its information, looking at, again, at those metropolitan city connections. So I think a lot of really interesting opportunities here. And I do see one question from Clemence. So Mati, Laura, thank you for your presentations. Do you already have a city-owned MaaS app? So mobility as a service app? No, Laura or Mati, if you want to take that.
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. As far as I know, City of Tallinn at least does not own a MaaS app yet. So, but the possibility is interesting, definitely.
Laura, I don't know if you have a MaaS app. At the same time, there's another question for you in the city of Milano.
No, we don't. No, we don't have a MaaS app.
Yeah, it's interesting also to build upon, I think, what you're doing in Brasov, Reinhold, right, with the Google Maps as a starting point, but then thinking about other functionalities that you're interested in. So, Laura, is there a website where it's possible to have some more information about your living lab?
I was muted, sorry. Yes, of course. We don't have at the moment a website, a specific website we are working on because the project is ongoing, but we could forward a presentation about the project. If you write to me an email, we will send you a presentation about what we are doing with what we are doing. And of course, next month, we will organize a kickoff to present the laboratories that we will start with the citizens, stakeholders, and experimenters. So it could be also a good opportunity to collect more infos, also how to understand how to participate in these laboratories and to test solutions. So please write to me and I will for all the information.
Thank you, Laura. I think I'll maybe just ask one last question and then I'll hand it over to Emma to show the B2 match functionality and how you can get in touch with the panelists. But maybe just one last question. So you've all worked, I think, on some very interesting projects. I'm curious if any of you have one piece of advice that you would like to give to the people in the audience in terms of how to facilitate a good public-private partnership. Maybe just one or two sentences in terms of what you've experienced so far.
I think for us in Dublin, it's definitely early stakeholder engagement. And it's about getting the right people in the room at the start. So involving everyone at the kickoff. Some of the more successful innovation pilot projects that we've undertaken in Dublin City Council have involved a lot of people in a room at the early stages. And I know sometimes there is a tendency to shy away from that. But I think you end up with redacted work if you're kind of going back on yourself, if you haven't asked all the questions at the start of all the stakeholders. So I would say don't shy away from having as many people in the room at the kickoff stage.
Great. Is very valuable, and I agree. It sometimes feels so big and complicated to do, but it will always come back later if that early engagement isn't done. Anybody else? Reinhold?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's like straightforward. I mean, be clear. What do you want us to do and what you can do? So it's good. And this is not only in terms of actions and roles in a partnership, but also we can go further. We can go further on data. Yeah. What kind of data do you need? What can you provide? What can we provide? Where can we buy or develop together a data collection method and so on? So for example, you want to do something on public transport optimization. Okay, we can provide you with data from the buses, from the AVL, but we won't probably have clear data on passengers. So here we have to work together. So role assignment, especially in data collection, for us is quite important.
Great, great point. Laura?
Well, I add to what Reno said that it is very important to ask us what they need, and but another important thing is that we will be partner tester but not buyers. So if you wish to contact us to test solutions, to make pilots together, we are very pleased, but we are not in the position to buy solutions. So this is not the right channel. We cannot choose what to buy. We have a specific and long procedures for the procurement. So it is not a market, but it is a cooperation to develop useful solutions and useful and innovative solutions for the cities and citizens and also the businesses.
Thank you, Laura, for setting the expectations up front. Maybe Mati, did you want to say maybe one or two words? Don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Well, with the previous question that I heard that what is important in private-public partnership is definitely I agree that the early stakeholder engagement, and more specifically also adding that the starting point to have an extremely precise starting point that is supported with data, so you can measure the impact of the change that you're doing. And this is supported by different tools and measures that you gather, but the expectations as a privately owned company, we are very flexible as mentioned here. So we are eager to have partnerships in any means and forms, and as long as it like provides a positive change for us and the city of Tallinn, of course.
Okay. Great. I think these are very important words of advice. So early stakeholder engagement, being clear about kind of the actions and rules and expectations, including for data management, but also what the city can do before and after the pilot and the cooperation. And then I think, Mati, what you mentioned about thinking about how you measure impact is also very important, because of course, when we think about scaling and replicating in the future, really understanding the impact is such an important part of that story. So thank you very much, Mati, Laura, Idel, Reinhold, for your presentations, for your preparation, for the work that you're doing to really advance sustainable urban mobility. I think you all have included your contact information in the slides, and I believe that you're all registered on B2Match so that other people can get in touch with you there as well. But really a final round of thank you to all of you, and then I'm going to hand it for a final few minutes with my colleague Emma, who's going to talk about how you can contact the panelists and other people as well via B2Match.
Thank you, Julianne. So I take the moment now to explain to you some of the key features and functionalities of the B2Match platform, which is a platform you will have registered in to be able to attend these different sessions. So in the platform, you will be able to see there is a participant menu item, which you can find underneath the ability to filter depending on what type of participant, whether it's a specific attendee or an organization. You can filter to find different people that you may be interested in collaborating with. You can search by different organization type and different activities that these organizations and people may be working on. Secondly, we have in the B2Match the opportunity to post different opportunities. So this could be that you're looking for project cooperation opportunities, if you're looking for a partner. If you have a specific area of expertise that you would like to share in the platform, and hopefully you'll receive some interest and potential meetings set up through the platform based on this request for different partners or by sharing your expertise. And then finally, you have the ability to network with different people and organizations within the platform. So under the meetings menu tab here, you can request meetings with other people during the matchmaking period, which starts this Friday, the 19th, and goes through till the 30th of June. So it will extend slightly beyond the application date, which is the 4th of June. And yeah, this is just a brief highlight of the functionality. So we recommend you utilize the platform as much as possible to make these connections possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. And thank you also for doing all of the background work and all of the slides that make all this possible. And I'd also like to thank my colleague, Georgina, who's managing the innovation call this year. I think it's a really exciting opportunity, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the projects and the collaborations that come out of this, and hopefully seeing some of those results come out already next year in 2025. So with that, we're going to close this webinar. As a reminder, we will have the recording available on B2Match if you'd like to view it later, if you'd like to share it with anyone else. And you know how to reach us if you have any other questions. And we're very much looking forward to continuing to work together. Okay, thank you very much.